Hi, I'm here at the CAMM conference in 2025 in Pensacola, Florida, with Mike Dyer from Mystic Seaport Museum. Mike, tell me a little bit about your work at the museum.
Sure, Nick. I'm the Curator of Maritime History at Mystic Seaport, as well as an instructor in the Munson Institute of American Studies, which is a graduate level course of study for 6 weeks in the summertime.
For 6 weeks? Now, so your background is as a historian, though, is that correct?
My background, yes. I'm a historian and a curator with a specialty in whaling history.
Specialty in whaling history. Now, you gave a great presentation yesterday.
Thank you.
About the whaling database and how that functions. Can you tell me a little bit about how that project came together?
Well, yeah. Over the years, there was a WPA Works Progress Administration publication called Whaling Masters, right? And everybody had one, and there was a list of whaling masters by their last names and their first names, and everybody's copy was all marked up. Like every whaling curator out there had one of these things, and the information wasn't really all that great. And so Judy Lund, who is a curator at the Old Dartmouth Historical Society, New Bedford Whaling Museum, starts entering data. She's entering data of the names of these people, their voyages, their dates, all this stuff. And she puts it all into a database, and she creates this great book that the Kendall Whaling Museum, the Old Dartmouth, and Greg Gibson, the 10 Pound Island Book Company, published, Whaling Vessels and Whaling Voyages Sailing from American Ports. So it's this great resource, and it's got the names of the people, the last names, first names where possible, names of the vessels, dates of the voyages, and what source material is available. So this is a great thing. Along comes the Census for Marine Life project, and this was Tim Smith, in particular Tim Smith, who worked for NOAA, I believe, and they were interested in whale populations around the world. In order to get at that, they had to figure out mortality rates. In order to get at mortality rates, they had to go voyage by voyage, which leads them to Judy Lund. Paul Apecco at Mystic Seaport had already compiled all this similar data for voyages from New London, from the port of New London. So he had this great database. And so they got their heads together and they said, wouldn't it be great to do this? Yeah, but we need a New Bedford data too. So they got with the New Bedford Whaling Museum and Paul Sear at the New Bedford Free Public Library had this fantastic list of names of individuals, as you saw in those shipping articles yesterday, right, from the Custom House.
Yeah.
He had this fantastic list, and so they create a database, and then through the technological wizardry of Dave Caldwell at Mystic Seaport and Paul Apecco, they came up with this really workable, and that's the key to this database, whalinghistory.org. It works. So makes my job easier, makes Harrison's job easier, collectors, scrimshaw collectors, dealers, manuscript dealers of various kinds, students and scholars, genealogists, lots of people use this database.
Wow, it was just an amazing presentation, and I'm going to put a link to it in the description, so people should find it. And tell me a little bit about your training these graduate students, this graduate level program.
Yeah, well, the Munson Institute started in 1955. The curator at Mystic Seaport, Edward Stackpole, recognized that there was a big hole in the American education system, that there was no graduate level course of maritime history, and so Stackpole gets with some of the more major maritime scholars at the time, Robert Albion being one in particular. These are the guys who wrote the foundational secondary source histories of American maritime history, and they start teaching at Mystic Seaport. And that was in 1955. So it goes along swimmingly for many years. It was endowed by the Munson family of the Munson steamship line. There's a pot of money to bring students to Mystic to study. And over time, many of our colleagues and lots of academics have gone through the Munson Institute to study maritime history in its various, lots of different subjects. I mean, it's a bottomless subject, and it's endlessly fascinating for sure. And so they asked me to to be an instructor. So I worked with Akia DeBaris Gomes, who is a PhD anthropologist with a specialty in Black and Indigenous people of color in the maritime trades. And she was the head of Munson Institute for the last few years, and they brought me as an instructor. So I'm an instructor, and my specialty is understanding maritime history through a geographical perspective. So I do a lot of work on cartography. I do a lot of work on voyages and understanding, as you saw from the presentation yesterday, how those voyages integrate into Western European and American influence around the world, and how those voyages fold in all kinds of people into this business, whaling in particular, but other maritime trades as well. I mean, we heard a whole weekend or a whole 3 days worth of papers over, the Great Lakes and Florida and the Northeast and Chesapeake Bay and Astoria and the west coast of Oregon. This is a national story. The history is integral to American history, integral, and so we try to fold that into the Munson Institute course of study to help students focus a bit and understand a bit that seafaring, maritime trade, the oceans, inland waterways, all matter in any kind of a historical study that you can undertake. These aspects of the American experience matter.
Yeah.
So that's that's what we do.
That is fantastic. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to chat with me today. And I have one more question.
Sure.
What, besides the wonderful presentation you gave, what are you hoping to get out of this conference?
Well, it's nice to connect with colleagues, to see what everybody's doing, and to, everyone has ideas. Whether they're exhibit ideas, whether they're outreach education ideas, whether they're administrative ideas, whether they're curatorial practice, all of these things. And nobody can do it all. But what you can do is listen to what everyone is doing and integrate it into your own work. And I think that's a very, very important part of why CAMM is important. Plus, we really do want to elevate the realities of the American maritime experience into the American historical narrative, and that's a challenge, as we heard from Kathy Green yesterday.
Yeah.
This is a national story, and it needs to be recognized as a national story.
Yeah, it really does. Well, hey, Mike, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me.
You're very welcome, Nick.
What a pleasure.
Likewise.